Okay, so good morning, everyone. We've got Mike here from Very Smart People, and today he's going to talk to us about iPad and iPhone basics. Hello.
Okay, thanks for having me. My name is Mike Gershbein, and this is a class I do. This is one of the ones that well, let me start with the name term. I've got a technology training company called Very Smart People, and I taught at your library a number of times. I teach throughout Chicagoland. I work one-on-one in people's homes, and these days I'm doing stuff mostly online. And this is one of the classes that maybe is a little bit trickier to do online, but we'll do it anyway, and we'll try our hardest, and hopefully everybody will get something good out of it. The reason it tends to be trickier is there tends to be a variety of skill levels in my class, and this is one where social distancing doesn't help because my people come in and they'll barely used an iPhone and will be afraid to touch it, and I can't really give you that much kind of as far as how it should feel when you touch it, over the internet. This is just something that you should use your iPhone or your iPad with, and kind of get more comfortable and get more familiar with it. But part of what I want to do, and a lot of what I want to do in this class, is just kind of navigate your iPhone or your iPad and get you more comfortable with trying different stuff on it. I spent a lot of time talking about the settings of the device because a lot of the troubleshooting that you've got with your device will be dealt with by you going into settings and playing around with it. And typically when I'll do this class, there'll be people who say, "Oh, my mail's not working, or this isn't working, and this app that I use isn't working." And if I was to kind of spend detailed time on all those different apps that you potentially use, we would never get through the class, and it would be so individual for each person that it wouldn't pay off. So my preference is to kind of make you just more comfortable with understanding how your iPhone or your iPad is designed, how it works, so you can go in and troubleshoot it a little bit, try your hardest, and maybe be a little bit more comfortable with it. So that's kind of my approach towards this class. And like I said, when we do it in person, it tends to be a little bit more hands-on because I'll be running over and or even better, somebody will be sitting next to somebody and showing them, demonstrating what the thing that I'm talking about. And we can't really do that here. So I apologize for any limitations that we may have in this class. I'll try my hardest, but that also kind of brings me to a couple kind of things about the technology that we're using. So I usually do a majority of this on an iPhone, and I've got a couple different iPhones that are available. Actually, let me talk about this in a second. A couple other technology things I want to get out of the way. I do have a chat room over here on my right that I will be glancing at, and I'm going to go ahead and type my name into the chat room and my email, mike@vspchicago.com. Put those both in the chat room. So I will be taking a look at that for people's questions. It's a small group, so you're probably okay asking me using audio, but feel free to put in the chat room. And another thing I always mention is that I'm dependent upon the internet like everybody else, my internet connection. So if anything happens and you lose me or I lose you, just stay put, and I will try to hop back on as quickly as I can and pretend like nothing has happened. Generally, I've had a lot of luck with this stuff. But now, as far as kind of technology goes, as far as iPhones and iPads, that's the other interesting kind of challenge that I face in teaching this class. I have two iPhones here. This one, what is this, an iPhone 8? I can't even actually remember. Or let me look. What is this? This is, right, to shows you how prepared I am. I've only taught this class. Oh, this is an SE. Sorry about that. iPhone SE. This one has a little button in the front. I think when I do the classes, a majority of people tend to have an iPhone with that little button, the home button on the front. So I've got that phone available. Most of the newest iPhones are like this one, which is a 10s, which is all screen. There's no button in the front of the screen. So there are some slight differences in the way that the 10s and the iPhones with that home button in front work. I think just because it's my main iPhone, I'm going to do a lot of the demonstration on my 10s, but I'm happy to hop over to my other iPhone or hold it up for you and show you stuff. in front of my camera, if that matters. Keep in mind that the more I hop back and forth, it takes, 10, 20 seconds for me to hop back and forth between devices. So I don't mind doing it. I'm just not going to be doing it all the time, unlike a regular class where I might just be much more proficient at that. But certainly, if you want me to answer anything specific towards one of these devices, I'm happy to do it. Although, like I said, for the most part, the newest iPhones, if you go and buy an iPhone today, there will be one model with a button in the front. But most of the models of iPhones are just a screen, and there's no button on the bottom front of the screen, and that's one of the big differences between them. Now, I also actually have multiple iPads available, and I'm happy to show stuff on an iPad as well. Now, the way that Apple works, um, the software that runs on an iPad is about 95% similar to what runs on an iPhone. Now, I'll be teaching this class on an iPhone, and somebody will be trying to follow on an iPad, and they'll say, that doesn't really, how do I find this on an iPad? That doesn't really look similar. Most stuff on an iPhone is going to be found on an iPad and vice versa. The big difference is that you got this huge screen on the iPad. So when I go into something like settings or a specific app, the iPad can put menu items in the left and can put, when you tap on a menu item, it can give you all the information on the right because you've got a huge screen versus an iPhone where you've got a tiny screen, you tap on something and the entire screen changes. So all the stuff is the same. It may look a little bit different because it's big screen versus small screen, but they're all there. That being said, once again, you want me to demonstrate something on an iPad, hop over there. There will be some slight differences in design, and I'm happy to do that. Just put in the chat room or scream, and I will do that. Now, so when we talk about iPhones or iPads, there are various models that have come out over the years, and the way Apple works with an iPhone or an iPad. Actually, the iPads have had a very long life, but what's more important than the actual model of the iPhone, and that's where you hear things like iPhone SE or iPhone 8 or iPhone, I think there's an 8 Plus, iPhone 10s, iPhone 10R, 11, 12, iPhone, all these are model numbers of the phone. And Apple comes out with a few new phone models every year, as well as iPad models, although, like I said, those change less. So those are less important. Apple comes out with new iPhone models every year. At a certain point, they come out with the actual model of the iPhone every year. They also they'll have 3 or 4 different tweaks, different sizes, different storage, how much stuff you can put on it, screen quality. One of the big changes is how good the cameras are. So the most expensive iPhones, if you were to go out and get it these days, have 3 different lenses on them and take amazing photos. That's one of the big things that you pay for if you get the most expensive iPhone. It's something that a lot of people probably don't even care about, but if you were really into photography, that would matter. But what's more important, which is what I'm driving at, is that your iPhone runs on software, basically an operating system, they call it. iOS is the nickname for it. And every year there's a big update to that software. And that comes around September. And I teach this class on the newest version of this software, which by now probably most people have upgraded their phone to. It came out end of last year, and we're partway through this year. In September this year, they'll probably come out with a new version. So the way this works, every year there's a big leap in versions of the software that runs on your phone. If your phone is really old, which I know a lot of people have, iPhone 6, for example, your phone will still be working. Your phone, many of the apps probably still work on it, and you can still certainly use it as a phone. However, Apple cuts off the model phones at a certain point so that the software can't update on them anymore. So all that leads me to the fact that I teach this on the most up-to-date phone, and I'm going to show you in a second how to check yours. So if your phone isn't the most up-to-date software, your phone is either too old to update, and some of the stuff I talk about won't apply to you, or if for whatever reason you haven't updated the software on your phone yet. And I do recommend that you do so, because updating your software every year, besides just doing enhancements in how it works, it's got a lot of bug fixes and security fixes. Now, something else that happens is you do get smaller updates all the time, and occasionally you'll get your phone telling you there's an update available. So you'll have an update every couple of weeks that does things like bug fixes, does things like enhancements. And I'll show you in a second how to look at those. But those are things you should regularly install. But let's go ahead. I'm going to go and share the screen on my phone right now and show you what I'm talking about as far as operating system versions. Oops. Okay, so one of the things that I had mentioned earlier was the fact that I was going to be spending a lot of time in my phone's settings or system preferences. And this is an option that's on everybody's iPhone and iPad. And you can see it on the bottom row of this iPhone. It's a little silver icon that looks like a little gear symbol. That is somewhere on your phone. That is somewhere on your iPad. And that's where you're going to do a lot of kind of basic setup for your phone and troubleshooting and all that type of stuff. So I'm going to pop back and forth into that now and then during this class. And then I end the class kind of with a run through of some of the settings in there that you can look at that are useful for you to know. For right now, I'm going to go ahead and tap on that silver icon, and I get taken to this settings screen. Okay. This will have a whole bunch of stuff that I'll be popping back into. But as for right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll a little bit down, and there's a setting that's called General. And I'm going to go slowly because I know that you may or may not be able to catch up with it. There's a setting called General, a couple of screens down. Tap on General. There are two useful sections in here as far as kind of figuring out what's going on with the software on your phone. There's an About section and there's a Software Update section. If I tap on the About section, it will tell me the type of phone I have and the version of the software that I have. So the version that Apple came out with back in September that everybody's phones should be updated to is version 14. Now, they'll come out with version 14.0, and then they'll have updates 14.01, 14.02, 14.1, which will be a bigger update, 14.2, so on and so on. Right now, we are up to version 14.4.2, and they're coming out with version 14.5 soon, which is a bunch of stuff that they're rolling out into your phone. But most people should be up to version 14 point something. If you're not, either you need to update your phone. I'll show you that in a second, how you can upgrade your phone, or your phone's just simply too old to get upgraded to the newest version. And I keep saying phone, by the way, this also applies to your tablet, to your iPad as well. When you go in here, you'll see, and by the way, this settings screen, if you're looking at an iPad, you're tapping on stuff on the left of the screen, and then your options are appearing on the right. Same options though, that general section. Now, when I want to go back to the previous screen on here, you can see in the top left-hand corner, it says General in blue with a back button. I'm going to go ahead and tap on that and show you one other thing, which is under About, it says Software Update. Now, some of you may see Software Update and may have a little red number next to it, 1 typically. That will mean that there's an update available for your phone, or for your tablet, for your iPad. I wouldn't go ahead and do that right now because will restart your phone, and we're in the middle of a class, and that's not a good thing. But maybe when you get home, or if you're at home when the class is done, you can run that update. I'll go ahead and tap on that Software Update, and it will tell me if there's an update available for my phone. The other nice thing that it can do is, you see there's an option for automatic updates. If I tap on that, then I can say that I automatically want to get these updates, because that way my phone stays up to date when these updates are available. And you'll get these messages that an update is available for your phone, but you won't have to worry about physically installing it. You can let your phone actually install it for you. So I'll go back. I hope that you have version 14 point something. If you don't, some stuff may look a little bit different as I'm demonstrating it, and I apologize for that. But as of right now, most people on a phone or on an iPad are on version 14 point something. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the actual physical design of the phone, buttons, and things like that. So, like I had said earlier, we're actually dealing with three different designs here, and maybe there's even some newer ones. I haven't seen the newest iPads. I know one difference there, but most phones are going to have a few physical buttons on them. Okay, if you have an older, smaller phone, there may be a power button on the top. It's a little button that's sitting by itself. And actually, too many hands here. I hope you can, didn't mean to change screens there, but I hope you can see what I'm doing. If you have an iPad, there may be a physical button on the top as well. On other iPhones, you'll see that there's a single button. This is looking at my iPhone, there's a button on the right side of the iPhone on both the large all-screen one or the one with the home button on the bottom front. That is the power button. Now, we call it the power button. If you just press it, it puts your phone into a sleep mode. I'm going to try pressing it and see if this causes me a problem. I press it and my screen goes dark. You can't see it, but you'll have to take my word for it, or I can show you here. My screen is dark. And then when you press that power button again, your screen wakes up. In this case, it goes to a lock screen, which I'll be talking about in a moment, at which point you can either type in your code to unlock your phone, or if your phone is one of these all screen ones, it can use facial ID to unlock, look at your face, and then you would swipe up from the bottom. Or from one of these other phones, which have the home button, you can use your fingerprint in order to unlock your phone. So pressing that home button puts it in a low power mode, and pressing that power button puts it in a low power mode, and then wakes it up again when you press that button. Now, if you want your phone to be fully turned off, that power button is what you would use. But the way that you would do it is hold it down a few seconds. Actually, hold on a second. On this, I mixing stuff up. On this phone and the iPad, on the phone with the smaller phone with the home button, or the iPad, you'll hold down the button for a few seconds. If you have a phone that is all screen, like the 10s here, you hold down the power button and the bottom left button, which is the volume button. And you hold it down for a few seconds and you get a screen like this, which will let you slide in order to power off the phone. On this phone, on the iPhone SE, hold down the power button for a few seconds. I'm doing it in the camera right now. I can't actually see what's going on. Hold down the power button for a few seconds. Same type of thing. I get an option to slide and turn off my phone. Now, when do you want to turn off your phone all the way? The answer is probably not that often. Some people I know like to turn off their phones at night. I don't necessarily recommend that. Apple doesn't recommend that because certain stuff happens with your phone at night. It runs updates and backs up, things like that. So it's usually best for you to just plug in your phone at night and let it go into that low power mode, which it automatically does when the screen goes dark. And that's my recommendation. If you're having problems with your phone, then you can try restarting it or turning it off and restarting it all the way by holding down that power button for a few seconds. And that will sometimes clear stuff up. Or if you're not going to be using your phone for a few days or a week, you could do that. But overall, it's fine to leave your phone on all the time. Keep it plugged in when you're not using it, and definitely at night, keeping it plugged in. That being said, you've got the power button there in case you want to turn off your phone all the way or get it into the low screen. Now, I want to talk for a little bit about the lock screen because it is an important security feature. Somebody picks up your phone, they try to get in there, and you've got a screen there, and it says to swipe up and unlock, and it doesn't recognize their face, and it asks them for a 4-digit code, and they don't know the code. All your information is protected when you've got a lock screen set up. Trying to think how I want to show you this. Well, I'll show you this in a couple different ways. So I do recommend that you have a lock screen. Some people are annoyed by it, especially now that we're all wearing masks. If you have a phone that uses facial recognition and you're wearing a mask, they don't work so well, and you end up having to put in a 4-digit or 6-digit code in order to lock your phone. Some people don't know with the iPads and with the phones with the home button, that you can use your fingerprint in order to unlock the phone. That home button at the bottom also serves as a fingerprint reader. So I'm going to show you some options as far as setting up lock screen on your phone. Now, conversely, you can turn off the lock screen on your phone if it drives you crazy and you hate having to put in a code or having your face recognize it or your thumb every time. I don't recommend you do that because anybody who can steal your phone can get into all your stuff. But those options are in security or in the settings app, which is that one I showed you at the beginning, near the beginning, which is on the bottom screen here, where I press that silver. And in this section, you're going to see one of two options. It's either going to be Face ID and passcode, or actually, I'm going to switch to my iPad to show you this because I think this is more typical for most people. Hold on one sec. It's either going to say Face ID and passcode about 3 sections down, or here's what it looks like on my iPad. I'm going to go into settings, and about, once again, 3 sections down. In this one, it says Touch ID and passcode. Touch ID and passcode. And in this one, you decide what type of security you want on your phone or your tablet. If you have a home button, you can add 1 or more fingerprints, in which case you say that you want to use Touch ID to unlock your phone. Turn that on, iPad unlock, and turn it to green. And then your phone or tablet will have you lay a finger, thumb, finger, doesn't matter, on the home button at the bottom of your screen, uses it like a fingerprint reader, and as you walk through a bunch of steps. And then moving forward, all you have to do is lay your finger on that home button in order to unlock that screen. This will also have you set up a 4 or 6 digit code in order to unlock your screen as well. And then if you have a phone, which is one of these iPhone 10s, it will let you set up Face ID so that your face can unlock your phone. So I do recommend that you go into Touch ID and passcode, set it up if you haven't done so. You can register multiple fingerprints, so you can register your finger, your thumb, both thumbs, your spouse's finger, your kids or grandkids' fingers, so they can unlock stuff if they want to. So all this is in settings under Touch ID and passcode, worth reviewing and making sure that it's set up either for facial unlock or for finger unlock. Now, a couple other things about the physical buttons on your device. You have a volume button on the other side from where I showed you the power button. Although the iPad, you have a volume button. It tends to be on, looking at the iPad, it tends to be on the right side. There's an up button and a down button. On your iPhone, looking at the iPhone, it will be on the left side. There's an up button and a down button. So this serves as a volume button. Press the button up. Let's see if it's going to show you on the screen. Maybe I'll go back to my phone. Let me go back to my phone. So when you turn up the volume on the phones, the volume by default will change the volume of the ringer. Okay, so if you're just walking around with your phone, holding your phone, pressing that volume button on the left, it turns your ringer all the way up or all the way down. But the other thing that the volume does is depending on how you're using your phone or your iPad, it controls the volume. So if you're watching a video, YouTube video, it will control the volume of that video. If you're on a phone call and you can't hear the person on the other side, it will control the volume of the voice. If you're listening to music or a podcast, it'll control the volume of that. So its default is to control the ringer volume, but depending on the individual thing that you're using, it will control the volume of that as well, which is very helpful. Now, The one other kind of button that a lot of people don't even know about is particularly because if you have any kind of case, it kind of obscures it. And it's hard to get to this button. If you have a case that like this one is this I could drop it off of the Grand Canyon and it'll protect it. So and the buttons are really hidden in this. If you don't have a case or a very thin case, it'll be easier to see. But there's one button that's located above the volume buttons. It's not on all iPads. Last few years, I think they've taken it off of iPad, so it's not there. If you have an older iPad, it's there. But if you have an iPhone, it's above the volume buttons, and it's a little slider. Maybe you can see it in the camera. Like I said, it's behind this flap on this phone. On this phone, you can actually see it above the volume button. It's a little slider, and you either push it away from you or you push it towards you. I'll show you what it looks like when I push it away from me or towards me on this phone. When I push it towards me, it says my phone is not muted. When I push it away from me, my phone is on silent mode. So if you are ever looking for a way to mute your phone, like you're in a class or a meeting or something like that, that slider, when you push it away from you, will make your phone totally silent. Now, in my case, I never have my ringer on. I hate ringers. I don't ever want to hear a ringer. I go to people's houses and their phone rings, and it drives me crazy. Pet peeve of mine. So I always have mine on muted on silent mode. I always have this little slider pushed away from me, and I have it on silent mode. But you can set your phone so that it vibrates. So my phone will vibrate, and I keep it in my pocket most of the time. My phone will vibrate when I have a call or when I have a message. And that way I don't miss stuff, but I don't have to hear the ringer. Now, weird little slider there that has one function, which is to mute your phone. Now, I will also mention um, most phones now and tablets and iPads have one little kind of hole on the bottom that serves multiple purposes, and that is to charge your device or to act as an adapter for other things. For example, headphones. You'll find that most iPhones and iPads don't have headphone jacks anymore. All the listening is done through Bluetooth, meaning it's a wireless connection. That being said, if you wanted to use wired headphones, there's an adapter that can go on the hole in the bottom that is also the hole that you use for charging. So that is an option for you. But most of the time, music listening, they expect you to, or hooking up to your car, they expect you to do it through Bluetooth. But some people still want to use wired headphones. That capability is there through an adapter. Now, I keep talking about the home button, and that home button is that button on the bottom front of the screen of your iPad or your iPhone, unless you have an all-screen iPhone. And this home button serves a few purposes. One I just mentioned, you can put your finger on it and unlock your phone and use it as a fingerprint reader if you set that up. Another option is that no matter what you're doing, you press that home button. Oops. No matter what you're doing, you press that home button and takes you back to your main screen of apps and other stuff. Now, if you have an iPhone that's a full screen one and that home button isn't there and you want to get back to your screen of apps, you need to actually slide your finger up from the bottom and it will take you back to the home screen. That is the same thing as pressing that button in the front of the other phones. Now, occasionally I'm going to talk about sliding up, by the way. And if you ever want to, my kind of a description of how to slide your finger when you do that is I picture it like pulling down a window shade, like slowly pulling down a shade. A lot of people, when they want to try sliding, they go zip, 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 and slide all around. Put your finger at the bottom of the screen, slowly pull up. Once again, that only applies to people who don't have a home button, but we'll talk about sliding your finger for other stuff as well. Now, this home button serves a third purpose, and that is to launch Siri, which is the personal assistant in the phone. And you might have done this on accident at some point. It's on your iPad as well, which is hold down that home button for a few seconds. And all of a sudden, your phone starts talking to you and you get a colorful little symbol on your phone. It used to be more obnoxious, but now you get a colorful little symbol on your phone. If you have a full screen phone without that home button, then you would launch Siri by holding down the power button. And there we see the little symbol on the bottom, and she's sitting there listening, waiting for me to tell her things to do, which I haven't done yet. That is Siri, which is a personal assistant built into your phone. So you can do stuff like this. I'll do a couple demonstrations. I sometimes I have issues with this when I demonstrate it online, but I'm going to hold down the power button for a few seconds, or you can hold down the home button if you have a phone with a home button, and I'm going to give this a shot. What's the weather tomorrow? And she'll often tell me what the weather is, or she'll answer me. I'm not sure whether you'll be able to hear it or whether it'll actually work because I'm doing this online. But when it's just me and her, she'll do it. Or I'm going to hold down the power. How are my stocks doing today? Or another really useful thing that people don't think about, which is doing adjustments on your phone. So I can do things like turn on my flashlight. She's a little bit slow today. She's actually not doing the right thing. There, my flashlight went on eventually. I don't know what her problem is. Or make my screen brighter. Sorry, I don't know why she's acting so slow today. She's usually a lot more responsive. Okay, she made my screen brighter. I'm gonna go ahead and turn off my flashlight. Oh, actually, my well, let me show you this, which is another thing you can do is you can use Siri hands free, and you just need to use the magic words. And this doesn't always work right when I demonstrate it because I have 4 different devices here that are listening for these magic words. The magic words are "Hey Siri." I just had another device pop up. So what'll happen is she didn't. Let me see if I can get her to work. Hey Siri. This is tough. I'm gonna try this a different way. Pretend I said, "Hey Siri, how do I get to the Addison Public Library?" You know, useful if you're driving. You can do hands free. If you want to try setting it up so that she's listening to you, and you can use those magic words to ask her questions about your settings, or trying to get her, she'll do all kinds of useful stuff for you. You can go into your settings app, and about 1, 2, 3 sections down, there's an option Siri and search. And that's where you can say, turn on the option, listen for those words. I can't say those words because she'll launch. But if you say, listen for those words, turn it on, she'll have you repeat a bunch of phrases so that she'll only recognize your voice. So other people can come in the room, say those words, and she won't respond to them. But you come in and say those words, and she'll start listening to you. So Siri, very, very useful. I use it all the time. Either hold down the home button, hold down the power button for the all screen phones, or say those magic words if you have that set up. Yes, everybody's flashlights. My only recommendation for that is that you turn them off. They'll use up your battery. So don't limit. Well, you can use Siri to turn them off too. Tell you what, everybody acts like this thing's a phone. As far as I'm concerned, this has 2 purposes. One is to work as a camera, all my photos, and number 2 is work as a flashlight when I'm climbing under people's desks, clients, that type of thing, or whoever, use it as a flashlight. My 2 most important iPhone features. Okay, so that's all the buttons. We just got through the buttons. Let's go ahead and actually talk about getting onto our device itself. So if your phone is or your iPad is locked, you can either hold the home, put your finger on the home button if that's set up, or if you like mine. Oh, by the way, I'll show you one thing. I don't know how many of you. Okay, actually, that just reminded me. One more thing I want to show you, which I will show you. There are a couple shortcuts from your lock screen, which are useful to know about. If you have a screen if you have one of the all screen phones without a home button, you can see there's a little shortcut in the bottom right and bottom left hand corners, which is a camera. So bottom right hand corner, if I tap that, it takes me right to my camera. Really nice. Don't have to unlock the phone. And a shortcut for the flashlight, which, like I said, my second most important feature. Now, if you are using an iPad or an iPhone, let me switch to my iPad. No, don't. If I if I switch to my iPad here, I'll go ahead and go to my lock screen.
Let me make sure. Hold on a second. I think you lost my audio. All right, there we go.
So I'm gonna go to my lock screen on my iPad. You're on your iPad or your iPhone. You want to get to your camera really quickly. There is a nice shortcut that's built in. You put your finger all the way on the right side of the screen and slowly pull to the left. You get to your camera right away. So you don't have to deal with all these steps of unlocking your phone, finding the camera app, or however you do it to get to your camera right away. From your lock screen on your phone or on your tablet, just put your finger on the right side of the screen and slowly pull. And notice I said slowly. Remember that metaphor of pulling, oops, didn't mean to, pulling down the window shade. Show you one other thing that you can get to from your lock screen as well, which is another one of these things which is, besides being very useful, you may have discovered inadvertently. And that's just like I said, to get to your camera, you can pull from your right to the left. You can also slowly pull, and this applies to all phones and iPads, from the left to the right. And look what popped up there. A bunch of useful stuff, I think. Basically, here I've got a little peek into my calendar. My auto appointment tomorrow, take my car in, and a class I'm teaching. Top news stories. I'll scroll up. There's how my stocks are doing. Some notes that I've got. The weather. These are all what we call widgets, and you can customize this so that you get all these all correspond to apps that you've got. You can customize it so your favorite apps show up as widgets, and you can tap on these as well. So for example, I'll go in here. What I'll do is I'll get up in the morning, slide right over to my widgets and take a look at a bunch, see the weather, see news headlines, things like that. And then, so there's the weather on the bottom. I can tap on that widget and it'll have me put on my thumbprint and it takes me into the weather app and shows me more details. So really, really useful. If you want to customize that stuff, just when you pull over from the left to the right, at the bottom, and this, I will say, this slightly works slightly different on the iPad and the iPhone, but essentially is the same. On the bottom, there's an edit button. And when you go in the edit button, you can either hit the little minus symbol next to a widget to get rid of it, or hit that plus symbol that's at the top. Work, there we go, and choose other widgets that you want to put in there, battery widget, clock widget, Gmail widget, whatever, add them in there as well. So you can customize those, but those are, and actually they have this, they changed the setup for these widgets, the last version of the operating system, and I think it's actually a little more confusing than it used to be, but there's another option for customizing at the bottom that will let you select basically non-Apple widgets. So there used to be one way to select widgets, and now you have to you need to do them both. But in this case, if I wanted to add some of these widgets, like I wanted to add boy, I don't even know, if I wanted to add a Yelp widget, I could hit a little plus sign, green plus next to it, and it will show up with my widgets. If I wanted to get rid of one, I could hit that little minus sign and then say done, and there's a little Yelp widget as well. So may or may not like these. I find them really useful. Certainly, I probably use them more on my phone. Let me switch over to my phone. Get up in the morning, slide from the left to the right, and there are my widgets on my phone. Map showing where I've got to be, calendar, things like that. Okay. Oh, so boy, we barely made it past the lock screen. Let's go ahead and go on our phone itself, and I'll show you how to do stuff on your phone. I shouldn't say on your phone, but on your main screen. So your phone comes with a bunch of apps installed on the screen. I've got some other stuff here which are actually also widgets, but maybe I'll ignore those for now. At the top right, you see that there's a Facebook app, and a Messages app and a Safari app. At the bottom of the screen, there are 4 apps. You have an iPad. They let you put a lot more at the bottom. Nice thing about putting stuff at the bottom is that you can swipe from the right to the left and have more screens of apps, but everything at the bottom stays the same. So you can keep your most commonly used apps, phone, in my case, mail, calendar, sitting at the bottom while you swipe from right to left and get to other screens full of apps. But all of this is customizable. You can delete apps from the screen if they're ones that you use. You can delete most of them. There are a couple that you can't delete, but Apple now lets you delete most of them. And there are a couple ways to do it. There's kind of the old way of doing it, and then there's the new way of doing it. The old way of doing it, I'm going to lightly put my finger on one of the apps for a few seconds, and what will happen is you'll see a menu pop up, which we're going to ignore for the moment, and then everything's going to start to wiggle. So I'm going to put my finger on an app, hold it for a couple seconds, and there's the menu, and then everything starts to wiggle. What I call wiggle mode, maybe other people call it. So what wiggle mode allows you to do, oh, I got out of wiggle mode, sorry. Put my finger on it for a couple seconds, then go into wiggle mode. Wiggle mode allows you to do is, see how there are little kind of minus signs at the top left corner of all the individual apps, or most of them. The ones that don't have it, ignore for now. If I tap on that minus sign, then the app will disappear from my phone. Now, you can always get these apps back. So that's not necessarily a bad thing if you want to get rid of them. So for example, your phone comes with an Apple Watch app. Do you have an Apple Watch? I do, but I don't know if you do. If that's just cluttering stuff up, you can hit that little, oops, didn't mean to do that, hold on. Hold it for a few seconds, hit that little minus sign, and then it's gone. Another nice thing you can do with that wiggle mode is move apps from screen to screen, or move them around on a screen. So you just put your finger on it, pull it somewhere else where you want it to be. You put it on the bottom of the screen if you want it to be one of those permanent ones, although on an iPhone, you've got limited space versus iPad is more space, but it's also limited. Pull it onto another screen full of apps and leave it there, pull it back. And then when you're ready, sorry, this is hard to demonstrate and do at the same time. When you're ready to let go of it, take your finger off of it, and then it will stay where you left it. So you can pull stuff around, move them onto screens. I just messed up all my apps. Let's see if I can fix it. There we go. I fixed it. Easy enough to fix. Anyway, not always, it doesn't always work smoothly, but it eventually works as far as moving this stuff around. Now, the other thing that we see there is we see folders. So see in the bottom right-hand corner, wiggling, it says weather, and it's got kind of 3 little symbols in it. That's actually, if I tap on that, you'll see that it has 3 individual apps in it. And your phone comes with certain things in folders. You can create folders on your own. It's just so if you have similar stuff together and you don't want them cluttering up your phone, you can drag one thing on top of another, and you see it, screen pops up, and it lets you create a folder full of apps. Or you do it the other way. You've got a folder, but you don't want things in a folder. You want them pulled out into your actual, where all your apps are. Pull an item out of the folder, let go, and put it on the screen somewhere. Then when you're done, everything will stop wiggling within 10 seconds, or you can press the home button or swipe up from the bottom if you have one of the phones that doesn't have a home button. So you can move stuff around, you can delete it. One other thing I'll mention is the newer way of doing things. If you hold it down for a couple seconds, you also get that menu popping up, which will give you certain shortcuts, but it also gives you that option to remove app, which will just delete that app, or edit home screen, which is the same thing as it'll let you basically put it into wiggle mode and let you move stuff around. My guess is they're going to just get rid of wiggle mode. That's kind of like the old way, and they're just going to give you this menu moving forward from now on. We'll see if that happens, but they'll give you other shortcuts of things that you can do with the app as well. So this is Safari, for example. It's giving me a shortcut to show bookmarks. So all customizable. In case you're wondering, I guess I'll tell you, just so you know, I also have these big, this just came around with the newest version of the operating system, where you can have these big widgets on the screen. So I have a big kind of snapshot of my calendar, snapshot of the stock market. If you hold your finger down on an empty part of the screen, you'll see a plus sign on the top left-hand corner. If you hit that plus sign, you can add those friendly little widgets to your screen. So I don't know if people like them or not, but I kind of like them without going into too much too much detail. Now, I do want to point out that you can always get new widgets or get widgets back, or not widgets, sorry, apps, get new apps, get apps back. Maybe the library has an app, or you want the Walgreens app for your COVID appointment, something like that. All your phones and tablets come with an app that's the Apple App Store. And that's the only way to get apps on your phone. And apps are, what we used to call programs, basically. They're these little things on your phone that run, that serve different purposes, photos, anything you see on your phone is an app. It will run a specific thing. So the App Store, looks like an A made out of like tongue depressors. It's one row down. It says App Store. Everybody's phone has one. I'll go ahead and tap on it. This is where I have to, by the way, mention one of the most hated things about iPhones and Apple devices, but it's something that you need to know about, you need to be aware of. I'll mention it probably one or two more times, is that all of your phones and tablets, when you bought them at some point in your life, you set up a password with Apple. Hopefully you know it. Hopefully you have it written down somewhere. If not, there are ways to get it back, and you can do that. But what'll happen is if you want to download stuff from the App Store, for example, they'll ask you for either an iCloud password or Apple password, same basic thing, and then you have to put in that password in order to download stuff. So you try to keep that password somewhere safe. Don't lose it. Write it down somewhere, and you will need it at some point. This is the App Store. Bottom right-hand corner, there's a search option. If I tap search, then I can go ahead and find whatever I'm looking for. Find backgammon. Hit search at the bottom. It will show me results for backgammon apps. Typically, especially when it comes to games, they're going to be available for free. If there's a cost, then where it says get, it will have, it'll say $1.99 or $2.99, something like that. Otherwise, if it just says get, then it's free. I can tap on the name of the app, then it will show me some screenshots. See what this backgammon game looks like. It will give a description. People can write reviews. So I can see that this one has 30,000, almost 31,000 reviews, average of 4.3 stars, pretty good. People write longer reviews, and I can tap get, and it will download to my phone in 30 seconds. And this is where if ever you delete an app from your phone or from your iPad, if you want to get it back, you'll be doing it through the App Store as well. So something worth being aware of. Anyone who ever tells you to get their app, you'll be doing it through the App Store there, going in there and purchasing the app, or I should downloading the app. Couple other things that I want to cover on this screen. First of all, you should know, I find this really useful. A lot of people don't know about it or forget about it, which is that just like your computer, I'm actually surprised the number of people who don't know this on their computers, because it seems like an essential thing to me, which is you've got an option to search your device. You've got a search bar on your phone and on your computer. I have a ton of apps on my phone. Honestly, I wouldn't have this many apps if it wasn't for the fact that I teach a lot. But as it turns out, I have a lot of apps on my phone, and I don't remember where any of them are. So my wife will sometimes, she'll get on my phone and she'll say, where are your photos? And I don't know where they are. If you find a blank spot on your screen about a third of the way down and slowly pull, you'll see that a search bar appears. And you can do different stuff in this. You can search for an app, search for the name of the app, and then that app will appear in the search results, and you can just tap on it and go in it. You can search for contacts names. So, you can go into search and search somebody's name, and it will bring them up from your contacts, and there's a shortcut to tap on to call them, shortcut to tap on them to message them or FaceTime them, or it will, you can even put in a restaurant. And if one of your apps handles restaurants, so for example, there's a Maps app, which will give me directions to the restaurant, and other apps that I use that, for whatever reason, it will appear there. So it gives you a search into all the apps on your phone. And I don't know why it's not giving me Yelp. It really gives me Yelp reviews as well. Anyway, worth knowing about if you can't find something on your phone. I was talking about something you can't figure out where it is. Put your finger on a blank part of the screen about 1/3 of the way down, pull down, and you'll get a search bar that you can try searching right there. Now, one other thing that I want to mention on your phone or on your tablet is that there is a shortcut screen for the most popular settings on your device. So on some devices, like if you have a phone with the home button on the bottom with the home button, then you need to pulley slow up. Bleh, sorry, I'm losing my ability to talk. Too much staring at phones. Slowly pull up from the bottom, and well, hopefully you can see that through the camera. I'm slowly, if not, I'll plug it in and show you. Slowly pull up from the bottom, and you get a bunch of shortcuts. Now, other iPads and phones without a home button, you need to put your finger in the top right hand corner. This applies to both the iPad and the full screen phones. Pull down from the top right hand corner, and you'll get a bunch of shortcuts appearing. So if you have a phone with a home button, you're doing this by slowly, and a lot of people, it takes them a few tries to figure it out. Remember what I said, which is just like pulling down a window shade, slowly pull up from the bottom, gently pull up from the bottom, and you'll get a bunch of these shortcuts. So some of your most commonly used settings. So these are things like eventually you're flying again. I'm flying this weekend, and you need to put your device in airplane mode. You can tap on that button that has an airplane on it. Or you can toggle off your data plan for a while, which is that green button at the top. Toggle off your Wi-Fi connection, which is that blue button under the plane. Turn off your Bluetooth. You're not using Bluetooth. Save a little battery life. Hit that button. That's the blue button that kind of looks like a B. It's in that quadrant of buttons. It's in the bottom right hand corner. It kind of looks like a B. That will toggle off your Bluetooth. Other stuff on here, I won't show you them all, but the one that looks like a lock with a circle around it, that one. And by the way, you may have some slightly different options on yours, but the stuff, and this is customizable. The stuff at the top is probably pretty similar to mine. That lock with the circle around it, that will lock your phones or your tablet, even more useful on the tablet. If you do reading on your tablet, when you turn the tablet horizontally and vertically, it adjusts. And you may not want that. Like if you're reading a book or something like that, you may want it to sit vertical versus horizontal, and that will lock it so that every time you move your screen, it doesn't move from horizontal to vertical. Next to that is a mute button. And this is really useful. I have it turned on. I have it white because if I didn't have it turned on, I would keep getting you get these notifications on your phone popping up all the time saying that you've got new mail, things like that. It will also quiet your phone, and so your phone not only won't ring, but it won't vibrate. So when you do something like go to a movie theater or go to a class or whatever, where you need your phone to be absolutely silent, you can go to that shortcut, either pulling down from the top right hand corner or pulling down from the bottom, tapping that mute button, and then your phone will be entirely quiet until you go in again and untap it. Next to that is brightness. And actually in your settings, you can do it so it's automatically, my brightness keeps kind of changing because it's set to automatically adjust depending on the sunlight. Then a bunch of other stuff towards the bottom, some of which is pretty useful. So shortcut to your flashlight without using Siri. Earlier we talked about using Siri, but you want a shortcut to turn on your flashlight. Not only that, if you hold your finger on it, oops, press the wrong one. If you hold your finger on the flashlight, you have options for different brightnesses. Kind of neat. Turn mine off. Or there's a timer shortcut. A shortcut to the camera. Little camera symbol right there. You don't want to deal with finding the app. Bring down the shortcuts and get right to the camera that way. So really quick and easy way to, you can see some of the options here: calculator, alarm clock, other things like that. You can customize this, get rid of the ones that you don't use. I'll show you how when we walk through settings, and keep and add the ones that you do want. I actually have smart home stuff on here. If any of you use smart home devices, I can just tap on some of these, turn on my lights, lock my door, things like that. So those are more options there. Okay, so that's most of the swiping. I'm going to show you one more thing that's worth knowing about that I like pointing out, and then we're just going to walk through settings a little bit, and that'll lead us through some more stuff, and we'll try to have it wrapped up around like 11. Gosh, what time is it? 12:15, 12:30, something like that, or 12:15, 12:20. You can ask me some questions. It's 11:58 a.m. Okay, thank you. All right. Oh, so other thing I was going to show you. Now, this is kind of one thing that I just want to point out so you know about it. And I don't, I always worry about telling people this because I'm afraid they're going to get confused, but I think it's useful to know about. And that's most of the apps that you use a certain icon that Apple uses all over the place, which is really, really useful. But a lot of people don't know what it is, so they don't know how useful it is. I'm going to go ahead and go into Safari, the web browser. It's actually really useful if you, this is really useful for photos, but I can't, because of how this is set up, I can't demonstrate it, but you'll see what I mean in a second. On the bottom of the screen, there's a square with an arrow pointing up, okay? A lot of apps you use are going to have this icon. If you go into your Photos app and look at a photo, you'll see the square with the arrow pointing up. You go into other apps, square with the arrow pointing up. What is this? So, what's the point of it? Who cares about it? And the reason I want to mention it is because it turns out to be a very useful function of your iPhone or your iPad, and it's the share button. And it does a whole bunch of stuff that basically involves, even though it's called the share button, it does a lot more than sharing. But at its basis, let's say you've got a photo in front of you, or in this case, I've got a website in front of me, and I want to send it to somebody else. If I hit that little square with the arrow pointing up, I get a whole array of options. First of all, it will let me do things like AirDrop, which lets you send an item to somebody who's very close to you in the same room, if they're in your contacts or vice versa. So if you're hanging out with friends at your house and you want to send them photos from your iPhone to their iPhone, you can tap on AirDrop and it will find their iPhone and let you send something to it. Or you can send it from your iPhone to your computer, things like that. Or it gives you a shortcut to send this thing through your messages or through your mail, or you can see Facebook Messenger, all these apps that I use, or post it to Facebook. Gives me shortcuts to send whatever item it is, photo, article, whatever, to any of these places that I want to send it to. At the top, it's giving me shortcuts to recently use, so I can easily send it to my wife, for example. At the bottom, it gives me other options as well, including if you have a printer that works with your iPhone or works with your iPad, print. And you hit the print button and it finds your printer and you send it to your printer. It gives you a bunch of other stuff as well. So worth knowing about. Once again, most useful, I think, if you use photos on here a lot, as ways to send photos to people. The square with the arrow pointing up gives you a nice little shortcut for doing that. So now you're aware of it. Next time you're in an app, if you see the square with the arrow pointing up, tap it, give it a shot, and see what the options that it does for you, because I do think it's really useful. Okay, so yeah, so we're about an hour in. I'm going to go ahead and walk through the settings a little bit, and there's a couple things I want to focus on in there, and we'll wrap it up with that, and hopefully that will give you some confidence to kind of look deeper into some of this stuff. But you can also ask me some questions. I'm going to go ahead and tap on the settings, and I want to start with this section that's at the top, which will have your name, hopefully not my name, and it will say Apple ID, iCloud, media, and purchases. And I want to talk about iCloud a little bit, which is in this section. So I'm going to tap on my name, get taken into this section here. It gives me a bunch of stuff, which may or may not be useful at some point in your life. But the main thing I want to show you is second section down, there's a section for iCloud. Now, at some point in your life, you've probably heard of iCloud. So we'll talk about that for a couple minutes, just so you know what it is. iCloud is Apple's cloud storage service. They give you 5 gigabytes of storage for free. And once you use up that storage, and you can share that among other family members as well. But once you eat up that storage, then they start charging you. It's 99 cents, I think, for 50 gigabytes. And then I'm using 200 gigabytes of storage, and that costs $1.99 a month. Okay, $1.99 a month, or 99 cents a month. Once you get up to that storage level, Apple says you are getting near the storage level of cloud storage, and we need to charge you. And you give them your credit card number, and $12 a year, $24 a year, whatever, depending on how much storage you need, Apple will start charging you for it. So what is iCloud? It does a couple useful things. First of all, it backs up everything that you want to be backed up to the cloud, so that if anything happens to your phone, it dies, you lose it, it breaks, whatever, you don't lose anything. You don't lose your photos. You don't lose your calendar items, your contacts, things like that. If they're only on your phone and your phone breaks, you lose your phone, you're out of luck. You lost all that stuff, and nobody wants that, right? So by having iCloud turned on, everything is backed up to the cloud. Now, the other nice thing that it does is that any device that's signed into iCloud syncs all of that stuff over. So if you have an iPad and an iPhone, you don't want to enter your contacts into each. You want all the stuff to be brought over to each item. And by turning on iCloud for contacts, then all your contacts, you change it on one device, syncs over to your other devices or your computer. If you have a Windows computer, only certain things work with iCloud, namely, and actually they only work, some of them only work with if you have Outlook on that computer. So not everything works great with your computer if you have a Windows computer, but it is pretty seamless if you have an Apple computer. But between Apple devices, it works really well, both for syncing and for backing stuff up. Now, the one, and actually, let me show you this first section. Basically, everything that's down here says all the stuff that you want backed up to iCloud. A lot of these won't have a ton of content, but if you use any of these apps, you may want them backed up to iCloud so you don't lose them. But I'm going to concentrate on this first main section on here on the top. iCloud backup, you should have it turned on. Now, that kind of overstates how much stuff is backed up. It backs up kind of like your main settings for your phone. If we go ahead and tap that, they'll tell you a little bit about how it works. It backs up the main settings for your phone. So if you go and you buy a new phone, just some basic settings are brought to that new iPhone or to the new iPad. You still want to back up all this other stuff. So it doesn't do a lot, but that being said, you should have it turned on. It doesn't take up a ton of space. Now, you may get your phone giving you pop-up messages saying your phone has not been backed up in 30 days, something like that. That means one of a few things. That means either you haven't turned on iCloud backup, or you turn off your phone at night, because they tell you here that your phone should be turned on and on Wi-Fi. If your phone is on your Wi-Fi and turned on at night, then every night it should be doing a backup of your phone to the cloud. And as you can see here, backup now button, you can push that through as well. But if you want it to automatically back up your phone, it needs to be turned on and on your Wi-Fi. Also, they will, when you set this up, require that you put in your Apple password or your iCloud password. And that's the problem I think a lot of people run into, is they turn this on and for whatever reason, they haven't entered their password or they don't know their password. So if you're in this screen turning on iCloud password, it may ask you or turning on iCloud backup, it may ask you for your password. But either way, I do recommend that you have that turned on for all your devices. Keychain is useful if you use your phone as a password manager, which I also do like. And Keychain allows you to back up all your passwords to the cloud and sync them to your other devices as well. Works particularly well with Apple devices. Kind of works now with Windows computers, but works better with Apple devices. Then everything else is just apps that you use. Do you want all this stuff synced across all your devices? Do you want them back to the cloud? I think it's a good idea. Keep in mind that the more stuff you back up, at a certain point, you'll be running low on storage. And they'll show you at the top, by the way, how much storage you're using and how much you have left in your plan. So you can take a look at that. Now, the one thing that's a little bit different of all these options is photos. If I tap on photos, you'll see here that they give you an option to turn on iCloud photos. The reason that iCloud photos you want to pay a little bit of attention to is because most likely, if you have a decent number of photos on your phone, you're going to start to use up your iCloud storage. So once you turn this on, Apple may say you don't have enough space, we need to start charging you. So that's something to keep in mind. And another thing about iCloud photos, it is useful in that if you have a computer, and this applies to both Windows and Apple computers. If you have a Windows computer, you can download a bit of software called iCloud for Windows. If you have an Apple computer, it's automatically built in, where all your photos are automatically downloaded to your computer. So if you're used to kind of plugging in your phone to your computer and downloading your photos that way, if you turn on iCloud Photos on both devices, all your photos automatically get downloaded to your computer if that's what you want. So that's kind of nice. One thing that some people don't like about iCloud Photos is that everything that happens on one device happens on all devices. So if you delete a photo from your phone, it's deleted from your computer if you have that turned on. If you edit a photo, it's edited on your computer. So it's this iCloud Photos is not necessarily a good way, for example, to clean up your phone and put your photos on your computer. There are other ways to do that, but not through iCloud Photos. But if you're looking for just everything on your phone to appear on your computer, everything on your computer to appear on your phone, then iCloud Photos is a good way to do it. I do recommend you turn on Optimize iPhone Storage, which will let you save some space on your phone. So that's iCloud in a nutshell. You know, if it's confusing, feel free to ask me some questions about it. Some people, for good reason, are confused by what exactly is happening in iCloud. I'm going back to my main settings screen. Actually, before I do that, I'll show you one other thing which is really useful. They moved it. It used to be in iCloud. It's on the screen that I tapped on, which was my name and iCloud and all that stuff. On this screen, there's a section for Find My. Find My is built into your phone or your iPad. It's on every phone and every iPad. And that lets you do two things. It lets you find your phone or your iPad if it's ever lost. It will show you where it is on a map. And you can play a sound through it as well, which is nice if you don't know which room you left your phone in your house. You can have it beep. Your dog will go find it for you. But it's also useful if you left it somewhere and you don't know where you left it, we'll show it on a map. It also lets you set it up so that you can find other people. So in this case, I have my son and my wife. They've agreed. It has to be a mutual agreement where I can go in and see that, for example, my son is at the park playing soccer, things like that, and I know where he is at any given time. So this is Find My. You can turn it on, and then the way that you use it moving forward is there is an app on every phone, every tablet called Find My. It looks like this little green radar screen, top left-hand corner, it's called Find My. And when you go in there, they give you an option either to find people, in which case those people that you've kind of registered with, you can see where they are. Both of them are at home where I am, or find your devices, show you all of your devices. I have a ton. And if you tap on an individual device, you can either have it play a sound, or you can have it put a message on the screen saying, this device is lost, please call me at whatever your home phone number is. You can even remotely erase your device. If you know that it's stolen and it's gone for good, you can tap on the device and remotely erase it. So honestly, most of the time I use it, it's for either looking up where my family is or for playing a sound on a device if I don't know where I left it. But it also has some security options as well. So that's an app called Find My, and you enable that app in your settings, in that first section under your name. Now, I did forget to mention one thing, which is in your settings. You know, I'm going to mention a lot of them, and you'll probably remember an eighth of them. I don't know, something like that. I don't remember where all my settings are. Apple does something a little bit sneaky in all of its apps. And once again, it gives you a search function for the apps, but it hides it. But most apps you go in, whether it's your mail or settings, if you pull down from the top, where is it? There we go. You pull down, look at that. A little search bar appears. And you can tap in that search bar and type in whatever, flashlight. And it'll take you to somewhere in the settings where you can go ahead and mess with those settings. So if you can't remember the ones I'm talking about, but you want to look closely, or if you're just investigating something on your own, go into settings, pull down on the main screen, and you'll get that search bar option. Okay, I'm going to walk through a few of these. We'll do this pretty quick. I'm not going to walk through everything. I don't want to totally lose you, but I do want you to go in here, you know, when we're done or any point in your life and feel like you can look through the settings and do some basic troubleshooting. Airplane mode, we already kind of talked about that. Wi-Fi, if you want to get on a certain Wi-Fi network. If you're not on your Wi-Fi at home, by the way, I do recommend you get on your Wi-Fi at home. And you, once again, you can do this at the library or wherever. You go to the library and maybe you're not getting a good connection because you're sitting in the middle of the library and, you know, your data connection isn't good, or you just have a limited data plan and you don't want to use it up, or just Wi-Fi at home is faster. It's faster than your data plan, especially if you're in your basement. So you can go into Wi-Fi, tap on Wi-Fi, see the individual networks that are available, you and your neighbor's networks, tap on one of those. If there's a lock there, that means it requires a password. So, hopefully it's either it's either the library and it has an open network, or it's your home network that requires a password. Tap on the name of the network, put in your password. Then every time you go home, your phone will get on the Wi-Fi there, and you won't have to use your data plan, and you'll have hopefully a faster connection. So that is in Wi-Fi settings. I think I'm going to skip Bluetooth, and I think I'm going to skip cellular. I'm going to skip those next few. Notifications is worth knowing about. Notifications are these pop-ups that always happen. They're either on your lock screen. You go to your lock screen, it says you received this mail or this happened, or you're just using your phone and these windows keep popping up at the top. And sometimes what happens is, you download that Arby's app, and all of a sudden every day you're getting these pop-ups that say, oh, it's 2 for 1 day at Arby's and things like that. And you're just going crazy because you don't want them to keep showing you these things all the time. You want to have the app, but you just don't want pop-ups happening all the time. You can go into notifications, look at your individual apps, and it will tell you if notifications are turned on for them. And if you have apps that are driving you crazy, you can go ahead, choose the individual app, and say either where you want to see notifications, or just turn off notifications completely. So you should not be held hostage to an app that you downloaded. What'll happen is, actually, you download apps and they say, we want to send you notifications. And you say yes, because you don't know what that means. And then you're getting these pop-ups all the time. Anyway, you can tame them. Sounds and haptics, worth knowing about. That's where you do things like change your custom ringer. Down here it shows you, change the ringtone for your phone, change the noise that it makes when you get a voicemail or when you get a text message. They give you a whole choice of, you can tap on any of them. I don't know if you'll be able to hear any of these. My guess is you can't hear them, but anyway, they'll play whatever for you, and then that'll be your new ringtone, or that'll be your new text sound when you get a new text message. Like I said, I keep mine on mute all the time, but here I have it set up that my phone will vibrate when my phone rings, or vibrate. It will vibrate even if I have my phone the volume turned down. So you can customize the sounds in there. Sounds, haptics are vibrations, basically. Do not disturb is useful if you want your phone to be totally silent in certain hours of the night. So you can set it on a calendar schedule, so that that you go to bed between, you go to bed at 10 and wake up at 6. You can set your phone to do not disturb between 10 and 6. Calls will still come in, text messages will still come in, but you won't get any of the sounds or vibrations. So, if you're the type of person who sleeps near your phone, something like that, you can always do not disturb manually. I showed you that from the shortcuts, but you can also set it up on a calendar. So it will do it only at certain times. Now, general, I showed you before. I hate that name, general. Talk about a meaningless name, general. That being said, this has all the stuff about your phone. If you're curious what is taking up space in your phone, because it's running up against storage. Your phone's running out of storage. You can tap on iPhone storage. It will show you how much space is being used. It will show you what apps are using a lot of storage. I had a client recently, and this has happened a couple times, who was way out of space and was ready to get a new phone. And I went in storage and I saw that her podcast app was taking up a ton of space, because she had been downloading all these podcasts to her phone. You don't have to do that. You can just listen to them without downloading them. So she cleared a bunch of them out, and her phone had all this new space. So, if you're worried about storage, you can look in there. They'll give you suggestions of how to potentially clear out space, things like that. Anything else in this section? No. Nothing I want to talk about. So that's general. Control center, that's all those shortcuts I was talking about, as far as pulling down from the top left-hand corner, pulling down from the bottom. You can go ahead, walk through here. If you want to get rid of any of those shortcuts, you don't use them, then you can hit the little red symbol next to them, and it will take them out of the shortcuts. Or they'll give you shortcuts at the bottom that you may want. Maybe you need a magnifier and you just want to do that little shortcut in order to use that magnifier. You can hit the little plus symbol next to them, and it will add it to the shortcuts. So you can customize that little screen. Display and brightness, useful for a couple things. First of all, just adjusting the screen brightness, although if I have mine set to automatically with that true tone, which automatically sets my brightness. Night shift will change the color that's emitted from your phone or from your tablet, so that supposedly the type of color it emits helps you sleep better at night. So if you read on your tablet at night and it's keeping you from sleeping among everything else, then you can turn on night shift so that it turns on at 8 o'clock at night and turns off in the morning. A couple other things: how quickly does your phone lock? You can change the auto lock so that it's a different amount of time. And text size. Some of you may like a larger text size on your phone. You can adjust it and it will adjust certain types of text and or make it bold. So you've got a little bit of under display and brightness, a little bit of customization that you can do in as far as look and feel. I'll skip home screen. Accessibility, I like to mention for those of you who either you or relatives have need certain types of accommodations, either physical, you may have tremors, or you may be colorblind or poor vision, or you may use Bluetooth hearing aids, that type of stuff. Accessibility is a section where you find all of that type of stuff. So potentially very useful to look at that. Wallpaper, change the background. In this case, I've got a picture of my son, and you can also change the background of your lock screen under wallpaper. Just find a photo in your camera roll and change the background there. We talked about Siri and search. Face ID and passcode, or Touch ID and passcode are options for you. Now, this next one I will urge you to be very careful about. Don't test it while I'm talking about it, because you could potentially have 911 rushing to the library. So be careful with it. But that being said, emergency SOS is an option for you as well. And that one lets you potentially, you could do it as an auto call to 911, in which case you hold down the, you press the side button 5 times is what you do, the power button. You press it 5 times. Like I said, don't do this, but you press it 5 times and you'll get an emergency screen that will let you do an emergency call. If you turn on auto call because you feel like, you may fall or something like that, and you may want an easy way to call 911, then when you press that power button 5 times, it will automatically call 911 for you. So Apple does some nice stuff with health. It will also call emergency contacts who are listed in the health app, which I can talk about, when I'm wrapped up if you're interested. But the health app lets you put in all your health information and store emergency contacts in case something happens to you and somebody finds your phone. Battery life, how much battery life you have and what's using up your battery, which can be useful. One other thing I will mention is passwords. I'll mention also that individual settings for individual apps are all beneath this. So, once you're in there and you're like, this mail app, why is it, or my contacts app, why is it sorting everyone by first name rather by last name? Things like that. All these settings are in these individual app settings. So you can go in there, try some basic troubleshooting and look through there and see if you can fix something on your own. Can't always do it, but Mail will give you a ton of options for setting up new accounts or things like that. I know sometimes it's complicated, but that's where you start to do the basic troubleshooting. And now it's kind of hung on me. Come on. But the other one I want to mention is that I like using my phone as a password manager. It's built in now. If you go into passwords, you need your Touch ID or your Face ID to unlock it. And you can ask your phone to autofill passwords. And then when you go to websites, it will ask you if you want to save the password for that website, so that every time you go to the website, you don't have to enter the password. You can just use your Face ID or your Touch ID to enter the password. You can see the websites, see the passwords that you have saved if you ever need to look them up. But if you're looking for kind of a basic password manager to keep your passwords straight rather than that book you use and you put in your desk, then your iPhone is a really good way of doing it. And it's secure because it's locked down, requires that same way to unlock it, either your thumb or your face to unlock it. Getting close to an hour and a half, so I'm going to try to wrap it up so that you do have a couple seconds to ask me questions. So why don't we wrap it up with that? And you can either unmute yourselves or type something into the chat room, and I'm happy to answer questions for a couple minutes about anything that wasn't clear or that you need more detail on. See, it's one of these things. I always feel like it's funny. I actually do an advanced class where we get much deeper and stuff depending on people's who attend on what they want to cover. And because this one, it feels like we cover such basic stuff, but it's hour and a half and it's exhausting. So it's basic, but not basic. But like I said, when I started, I do want you to be able to kind of go out there and play with your phone, try this stuff on your phone, and try some basic troubleshooting on your own, and be a little bit more empowered. Anyway, go ahead and ask me some questions. It's enough talking on by me.
All right, so we do have a question here in the building.
Okay.
Hi, I like this now how I can clear my text message from the pictures from my phone. I send the text message for somebody and I can't, this clear now. I want to clean. I want to go.
Yeah. So the way the text messages work by default, and I think this is what you're getting at, by default, they keep a record all the way back to the beginning of text messages. They keep it as a chain, right? So here when I've got going to my wife, it has text messages all the way back to beginning. So you have two options when it comes to text messages. One is that you can delete the entire string of text messages. And the easiest way to do this, you've got this screen with all your text messages on it. You can put your finger on the right side, oops. This is hard to demonstrate apparently. Slide from the right to the left, and you see that little garbage sign, that little garbage symbol that appears, trash symbol. If you hit that, then all the messages will disappear all the way back to day one. Got that? Slide from the right to the left on the message you're looking to do and hit that trash can.
So what if she wants to erase just like, say, a picture that she sent?
Right. So in that case, you have more kind of specific, you have more specific options in doing that. Hold on a second. Easiest way to do it is, I was trying to figure out the easiest way that you could do it. Easiest way to do it, here's a string of messages, okay? Here are some articles that I sent. Here we go. Here's, let me see if I've got a picture in here. Okay, here's a picture that I sent. If I hold my finger down on that picture for a couple seconds,
okay,
it gives me a bunch of options. Save, before you delete photos, like if somebody sends you a photo, you may want to save it to your camera roll. But I'm going to tap on more.
Okay.
And you see how now there are little kind of circles on the left with a check mark.
They come back.
So go ahead and try again. So we're pressing and holding. Go ahead and let go. Try again. Okay, we're gonna hit more.
More.
And so now we've got that check mark that he has. Okay.
Yeah, and then there's a trash can at the bottom.
Okay.
Tap on the trash can. Select any of the ones you want. You could select multiple ones here. They give you the circles. So you could say, select that, select that, select that. Hit that trash can, and then it's gone.
Perfect. She's cleaning up her
Thank
messages.
you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, and actually, there's another way to do it if you have a ton, which is if you go into the message chain.
Yes.
See how I've got my wife's name at the top here. If I tap on her name, tap on info, at the bottom here, this will show you all the photos that you've been exchanging with them. And you can just say see all and select the individual photos that you want to delete there.
Right here, see all.
And then that lets you hit the select button at the top, and then you can select individual photos and delete them all at once if there's a lot.
Okay.
Okay.
No.
And you could actually
Okay. Delete.
so tap again, and then
No.
delete attachment.
Oh, I see.
Okay, so you can actually just tap each one.
Oh, no.
Okay, so let's go back.
Okay.
Oh, so let's go back. Hit select up top. And now you can erase a lot. Just tap them all. And we get the check mark. And when you're done, the trash can.
Oh my God, thank you very much. I appreciate
You're welcome.
it. Amazing.
Yeah, because those really clutter it up. And not only do they clutter up the messages, they take up space in your phone.
Yes.
So if you find that you're getting close on space, that's one of the things that people never do is they never clean up their messages and they just have all these old photos in there. But yeah, the other thing people do need to remember is to save messages if they want to save them before they clean them up.
How I can put this before like this photo by my name, or is this like face?
For your Apple ID, we noticed you had a picture. So
Yes.
Elizabeth was wondering how she could also get a picture there.
Yeah, so the easiest way to do it is go into your settings, and
Yes.
there is my name and my picture. I'll tap on that. And then at the top, you see where it says my picture, it says edit underneath.
Yeah.
So
If you tap on that, it'll let you choose a photo from your camera roll from your phone.
you could do choose
Choose
photo,
Okay.
and then you can pick whichever one. You might have to scroll to find one of yourself.
Yeah, you'll have to find a particular one.
Oh, it was young. Years ago.
You could put whichever
That's homework.
you want.
That can be your homework, finding the right photo.
And then I do see we have Sharon here. Sharon, if there's anything any questions you'd like to submit, you can send them in the chat. Or I don't know if you want to unmute yourself, you would just tap the little microphone on the bottom of your screen.
Choose this one.
Okay, and then hit choose.
And
then it'll come up. It just takes a little bit. There you go. It doesn't look like we have any questions from Sharon just yet.
Okay.
If anything,
Well, let's all get lunch.
yes.
thank you very much. I appreciate this lesson. It's really amazing. Amazing. This we learn. You did very good job, Sarah.
Good, and hopefully you can just once again go play on your own and find out some of the stuff you can do because it's certainly a ton of options.
Yes, I'm going to do. Thank you.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for coming and have fun. Have a great day, everyone.
Of course, thank you.
Bye-bye.
We'll see you next week for
Thanks.
Basics.
Sounds good. I will see you then.
Bye.
Bye.